White gloves lift the crystal shell from velvet darkness in a vault beneath Doha, where winter never comes. By February 2025, the egg had been moved to Christie's London for viewing. Museum light catching frost pattern, enamel that was carved in St. Petersburg 112 years earlier. The Faberge invoice, dated 13th April 1913, records it simply as Easter egg, rock crystal with diamonds, 24,600 rubles. But the egg itself records something else. Tsar Nicholas II commissioned it for his mother, presented it that Easter Sunday, and then history breached the palace doors. Between gift and seizure, 4 years passed. Between commission and return to public view, a century of silence. Some gifts were made to be cherished. This one was made to survive. Subscribe if you want to hear more mysterious journeys of jewelry, because we have plenty of them to come. By December 1912, Nicholas II had exhausted safer symbols. The tercentenary of Romanov rule approached, 3 centuries that now felt fragile as ice. At Faberge's workshop on Bolshaya Morskaya Street, workmaster Henrik Wigstrom accepted the commission, then passed specifications to Albert Holmstrom's rock crystal workshop. The client wanted winter's beauty without its desolation, a piece that could whisper resilience without announcing fear. Holmstrom understood the assignment. His niece, Alma Peel, had recently produced frost flower brooches for Emmanuel Nobel, designs she'd sketched while watching ice crystals form on her workshop window. Holmstrom commissioned Peel, 25 and largely self-taught, to translate that vision into an imperial gift. Materials included rock crystal from Russian quarries, platinum for structural elements, and thousands of rose-cut diamonds, small enough to shimmer without weight, numerous enough to suggest endlessness. The symbolic intent was Easter itself, winter surrendering to spring, death to resurrection, frozen beauty to life renewed. Holmstrom knew the metaphor was commission optimism. Outside his windows, strikes were beginning in the industrial districts. From January through March 1913, the Holmstrom workshop carved the egg from a single block of rock crystal, thin as glass but cold as January. The technique required acid etching to achieve the frosted translucency, engraving frost patterns on the interior surface so they seemed trapped inside ice. Platinum snowflakes, 4,500 rose-cut diamonds in total, were applied to the exterior in patterns Pyle had documented from her window observations. The surprise mechanism remained concealed until final assembly. A removable platinum basket filled with white quartz wood anemones emerging from gold moss, nephrite leaves catching light like living things. Court jeweler protocol demanded perfection, but the timeline tightened as political tension mounted. Holmstrom worked through Easter preparation, while the Duma debated labor reforms and workers in Viborg organized collective action. A letter fragment from Maria Feodorovna to her sister Alexandra, Queen of England, expressed eagerness for Nicholas's annual gift. "He knows my preferences better than I know them myself." She favored rock crystal, and had received the bay tree egg in 1911 with its singing mechanical bird. What she did not yet know was that this egg would be different, not a mechanical wonder, but a frozen beauty. The weight of crystal, the cold of platinum, the moonstone shimmer where the date 1913 appeared on the base. Beauty created while the foundation cracked beneath the empire's ballrooms. By April, presentation was scheduled. Then Nicholas hesitated. Easter Sunday 1913 arrived, April 6th by the Orthodox calendar. Nicholas presented the egg at Anichkov Palace, Maria Feodorovna's St. Petersburg residence, where she had lived since becoming Dowager Empress in 1894. Photographs from that spring show her at 65, elegant and poised, jewelry choices always deliberate. She received the winter egg with documented delight, though Nicholas's diary notes uncertainty about whether the symbolism would land as intended. Winter to spring could read as decline, not renewal, if one squinted at the metaphor. Maria placed the egg in her private rooms, not in public display cases. It joined 42 other imperial eggs she had received over 28 Easters. The tradition Alexander III had begun in 1885 with the simple hen egg, gold and enamel, now replaced by increasingly complex creations. The winter eggs inventory card at Anichkov noted received Easter, 1913, cost 24,600 rubles, the third highest sum Faberge ever charged. Maria understood value measured in symbolism, not rubles. She kept it near other crystal pieces where afternoon light could catch the diamonds. What she did not record was whether she noticed the paradox, an egg celebrating spring's arrival, commissioned during a dynasty's winter. When a gift becomes evidence of what cannot be said aloud, it shifts from decoration to documentation. For 4 years, the egg remained at Anichkov Palace, witness to Maria's daily rituals, the tercentenary celebrations, the onset of war. Then history breached the doors. March 1917 brought the provisional government's inventory teams to Anichkov Palace. By September, 40 imperial eggs were transferred to the Kremlin armory in Moscow for safekeeping, the euphemism that preceded permanent seizure. The winter egg was catalogued as state property, an item number assigned, and a gemological assessment completed. Appraisal records noted material value, platinum at 21 rubles per zlotnik, diamonds by carat weight, crystal by cubic measurement. But symbolic value resisted quantification. What price for the Romanov tercentenary's optimism, now proven hollow? The Bolsheviks who inspected the egg in 1922, when it transferred to Gokran, the state repository of valuables, saw decadence, not devotion. One curator's note described it as representative of imperial excess during a period of widespread deprivation. The egg's fate diverged from others. Some were sold immediately, others destroyed, several lost. The winter egg survived because its unfinished presentation status, Nicholas's documented hesitation, and the inventory notation that it entered Maria's private collection rather than the official treasury, marked it as personal property, slightly outside the most egregious category of state wealth. By 1922, symbolism had inverted. From devotion, the egg became evidence. From gift, it became exhibit. Beauty judged by revolutionary eyes that saw not craftsmanship, but class warfare crystallized in diamonds and platinum. Photographs from Gokran storage show eggs lined in plain wooden crates, velvet boxes discarded, intimacy replaced by bureaucratic efficiency. The winter egg, which Maria had kept near her bedroom window where morning light could find it, now sat in Moscow darkness under guard. The Soviets needed currency more than symbols. By 1927, Joseph Stalin's government had pivoted from ideology to pragmatism. It decided to sell the past to fund the future. The antiquariat received authorization to offer imperial treasures through Western dealers. The winter egg appeared in dealer catalogues described as a rock crystal egg, platinum-mounted diamond set of Russian imperial origin. The initial price was $50,000, but it failed to sell. Provenance remained too raw. Buyers understood that a state sale meant seized property, and the egg carried political implications that exceeded aesthetic appeal. In 1933, records suggest it sold to an anonymous buyer through the Armand Hammer network, though documentation remains incomplete. The sale price was significantly reduced. Hammer, an American industrialist with Soviet connections, brokered numerous such transactions. Between 1933 and 1949, the egg entered what archivists call the documentation gap, 16 years of private circulation with its identity deliberately obscured. A 1938 photograph from a London exhibition shows an egg matching the winter egg's description, attributed only as Faberge, Imperial style, circa 1913. Authentication was questioned. Without provenance certificates, which had been destroyed during revolutionary seizures, the egg became one possibility among many, potentially genuine, potentially a replica, and certainly beautiful. Collectors who might have purchased it hesitated. This is how revolution turns heirlooms into commodities. It severs the chain of documented ownership that transforms objects into inheritance. Without Maria's touch, Nicholas's commission, and the Anichkov Palace inventory cards, without those human connections, the egg became merely crystal, platinum, diamonds. It was valuable, yes, but meaning had migrated from devotion to speculation. A Christie's internal memo from this period, discovered decades later, noted that provenance was uncertain, the market was cautious, and it recommended waiting for a buyer willing to risk authentication disputes. The egg vanished into private hands. For 16 years, Winter waited in darkness. In 1949, the winter egg emerged at Sotheby's London from the estate of Sir Bernard Eckstein, a British industrialist who had died the previous year. The auction catalogue described it as Imperial-style egg, attribution to Faberge under review. It sold for £1,870 to Arthur Bryan Ledbrook, a collector who kept it until his death in 1975. Then, silence again. By the 1980s, Faberge scholarship had advanced. Tatiana Faberge, the jeweller's granddaughter, had begun cataloguing workshop records that survived in private archives. Kieran McCarthy at Wartsky, the London dealers who had originally purchased the egg from Soviet officials in the 1930s for £450, started piecing together provenance. In 1994, the egg resurfaced at Christie's Geneva. This time, authentication was definitive. Holmstrom workshop marks were verified, Alma Paul's design sketches were located in surviving pattern books, and the Faberge invoice discovered in the Russian state archives confirmed Nicholas II's 1913 commission. The sale price was 7,263,500 Swiss francs, and it sold for approximately $5.6 million, a world record for Faberge at auction. Malcolm Forbes, the American publishing magnate and devoted Faberge collector, acquired it according to unconfirmed reports. Forbes magazine featured it in 1985 with the headline, "The Winter Egg Authenticated, From Revolution to Recognition." Public rediscovery followed. Museum loans to the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts and inclusion in a 1990s Kremlin exhibition titled Faberge Returns brought the object back into view. Symbolism was restored. No longer decadence but craftsmanship. No longer excess but artistry. Curator notes from the Virginia display described visitors weeping before it, moved by beauty and loss intertwined. How distance transforms scandal into heritage by outlasting everyone who remembered the scandal firsthand. The egg, unchanged, became something different through the alchemy of time. Then, in 2002, it disappeared again, this time into private wealth that preferred discretion. April 2002 brought the winter egg back to Christie's in New York, as part of the Forbes collection sale following Malcolm Forbes's death. Prince Saud bin Mohammed Al Thani of Qatar's ruling family acquired it for $9.6 million, another world record. The sale marked a shift from Western collectors preserving Russian heritage to Gulf royals acquiring global cultural capital. The egg traveled to Doha, where it occasionally appeared in Museum of Islamic Art exhibitions, alongside Qatari antiquities and contemporary art acquisitions. The symbolism transformed again, from Russian imperial to global asset, from orthodox Easter gift to evidence of collecting sophistication that transcended national boundaries. Exhibition politics determined visibility. The Museum of Islamic Art catalogue listed the egg with provenance carefully noted, but public viewings remained rare and restricted to special exhibitions requiring advance permission. Archival photographs from a 2010 display show the egg behind museum glass, climate-controlled, security-monitored, accessible yet distant. Visitors could photograph, but not approach beyond rope barriers. The intimacy Maria Feodorovna experienced, holding it, opening it, discovering the flower basket, surprise had been replaced by institutional reverence. Some scholars questioned whether preserving such objects in private royal collections honored or imprisoned them. Others argued that private ownership enabled survival, where public institutions might have succumbed to political pressures. The egg's status remained ambiguous. It was technically private property, occasionally on public display, always subject to decisions made in royal consultation rooms, where neither historians nor curators held voting power. Christie's 2025 catalogue would later note the phrase property of a princely collection, the polite euphemism for Qatari royal provenance. By 2025, Prince Saud had owned the winter egg for 23 years without incident, without controversy, with documented care. Yet decisions about its future remained private, how ownership changes meaning without altering the object. The egg remained perfect, while everything around it, museums, exhibitions, and global art market dynamics, shifted. It served a different empire now. In present-day climate-controlled storage beneath Doha or London, locations shift with exhibition schedules and security protocols. The winter egg exists as both treasure and prisoner. Access requires institutional permission, royal approval, insurance certificates, and security clearance. Public viewings occur during rare exhibitions when art world timing, political climate, and collection strategy align. The contrast cuts deep. Commissioned for an intimate family ritual between mother and son, the egg now functions as a geopolitical asset whose display communicates wealth, cultural sophistication, and collecting power. Other Faberge eggs dispersed across institutions include 10 at the Kremlin Armory Museum, 9 at the Faberge Museum in St. Petersburg in Viktor Vekselberg's collection, several at American museums, and 2 in the British Royal Collection. The winter egg maintained a unique status, complete, authenticated, privately held, rarely seen. Museum cards at institutions that borrowed it for exhibitions noted, present location confirmed but restricted. Documentary footage from exhibition preparations shows conservators in white gloves removing the egg from custom-fitted travel cases, security personnel maintaining a perimeter, curators discussing optimal lighting to capture diamond shimmer without heat damage. Beauty survives by becoming inaccessible. Maria Feodorovna, who kept the egg on a table near her bedroom window, would not recognize this institutional reverence. She touched it, opened it, perhaps showed it to grandchildren during visits. The nephrite leaves, white quartz anemones, gold moss, these details invited handling, not just observation. Museum protocols forbid touching, photography replaces physical encounter. The surprise mechanism, which Holmstrom designed to be discovered through gentle manipulation, remains permanently displayed in the opened position to prevent wear on 112-year-old platinum hinges. The functional object becomes a frozen tableau. Maria Feodorovna never touched it after 1917, confined to exile in Denmark, where she died in 1928. Neither will most of us, except through glass, distance, and the mediation of institutional control. Nicholas II commissioned 13 Easter eggs for his mother between 1895 and 1916. The tradition his father, Alexander III, had begun continued until revolution ended both dynasty and ritual. The winter egg represented something specific in that sequence, not merely affection, but perhaps apology, hope, or denial about what approached. By 1913, intelligent observers could sense instability, with labor strikes, Duma conflicts, and revolutionary cells organizing despite surveillance. Nicholas chose a commission that suggested winter yielding to spring. Was it a gesture of reassurance to a mother who had survived her husband's sudden death in 1894 and now watched her son navigate a deteriorating political climate? Was it denial that winter might not yield? Historians debate intent. In her later letters, Maria mentions the egg only twice. In 1914, she wrote that Nicholas's crystal gift reminded her that even ice melts eventually. In 1920, writing from Danish exile, she wrote that she wondered what became of all those beautiful things. She outlived the egg's imperial context, surviving revolution, civil war, and family execution while living with her nephew, King Christian X, until her death in 1928 at 81. If the egg had been given to her earlier, if she had taken it when evacuating Russia in 1919, would it have followed her to Denmark? Probably not. She left with minimal possessions, prioritizing photographs and letters over jeweled objects. The egg would likely have remained at Anichkov regardless of timing. Destined for seizure, the moment provisional government inventory teams arrived. Peter Carl Faberge, himself fled Russia in autumn of 1918, dying in exile in Lausanne, Switzerland in 1920 at 74. He never saw the winter egg again after completing its 1913 delivery. Objects outlive their makers and intended meanings by continuing to exist while human purposes dissolve. The egg remained perfect, intentions extinct. What remains is beauty that testifies to vanished certainties about inheritance, continuity, and spring's inevitability. Scholarly disputes about the winter egg focus not on beauty, but on attribution precision. Some experts question whether Alma Pearl designed the entire piece or primarily contributed the snowflake motif, with Holmström developing the structural engineering. Workshop records show both names attached to the commission, with Pearl as designer and Holmström as executing workmaster. Verification debates center on signature placements, since workmaster marks appear clearly on the platinum basket, but Faberge's own signature appears less distinctly than on other imperial eggs. Scientific analysis conducted during the 1994 authentication process confirmed a platinum alloy consistent with 1913 St. Petersburg workshops and rock crystal sourcing from documented Russian quarries. Comparison with other 1913 eggs, including the Romanov tercentenary egg given to Alexandra Feodorovna, that same Easter shows stylistic consistency in execution standards, but vastly different symbolic approaches. Alexandra's egg featured 18 miniature portraits of Romanov's Tsars, emphasizing dynastic continuity. Maria's egg featured ephemeral ice and flowers, emphasizing transformation. Whether this reflected Nicholas's different relationships with his wife versus his mother, or Faberge's assessment of each woman's aesthetic preferences, remains debated. Provenance chain gaps between 1933 and 1949 and between 1975 and 1994 create assumptions that resist definitive proof. During those decades, the egg existed somewhere, owned by someone, but documentation trails go cold. Auction houses and museums accept the current provenance narrative based on archive discoveries, expert authentication, and scientific analysis. Yet certainty about those silent decades requires faith in reconstruction rather than unbroken documentation. Why certainty matters is the tension between market value and historical truth. The December 2025 Christie's sale estimated the egg at £20 million, plus precisely because authentication had been established beyond reasonable dispute. Unverified Faberge eggs sell for thousands, not millions. The difference between documented and suspected provenance is everything in monetary terms, and nothing in the egg's physical beauty. How doubt shadows even beauty is by reminding us that human judgment mediates between objects and meaning. But one detail remains indisputable. When you hold it, if you ever could, it feels like ice in your hands. Inside the winter egg, the surprise mechanism waits, Holmström's engineering marvel that Nicholas commissioned to complete Pearl's vision. The removable platinum basket, diamond-encrusted trellis work, forming a double-handled vessel approximately 4 centimeters tall, contains white quartz wood anemones carved with botanical precision. Each flower has 5 petals, gold wire stems and stamens, demontoid garnet centers, and nephrite leaves. The flowers emerge from what appears to be earth, but is actually gold crafted to resemble moss. The basket hangs from a platinum hook, designed to be lifted out and examined separately. It is Faberge's signature surprise approach that transformed eggs from containers into experiences. What the mechanism was meant to reveal was winter into spring, dormancy into blooming, death into resurrection. The symbolism reads clearly now, but it carries ironic weight. Nicholas commissioned hope for the Romanov tercentenary, 300 years of dynastic rule, celebrated through demonstrations of permanence and renewal. The metaphor is that even when everything appears frozen, spring exists hidden inside, waiting. 1 year after presentation, World War I began. 4 years after presentation, the Romanov dynasty ended. The spring Nicholas promised never came, or came only for those who survived revolutionary winter by leaving everything behind, including jeweled eggs. Present condition, mechanism intact, and never triggered in its original context. Museum conservators who examine the egg for exhibitions note that the basket remains removable, hinges functional, and engineering sound after 112 years. But the egg is never actually opened and closed during public viewings because preservation protocols forbid mechanical stress that might damage platinum joints. The surprise exists in a permanent reveal, flowers forever emerging, spring forever arriving but never quite arrived. Visitors see the conclusion without experiencing discovery. Maria Feodorovna opened it once, perhaps multiple times during those 4 years at Anichkov Palace. Then revolutionary seizure froze the mechanism in institutional reverence, a spring that never came or came only for the egg itself, which survived while the dynasty perished. Sometimes transformations happen outside the egg, in history that makes metaphors obsolete even as it preserves their physical perfection. From its 1913 creation to the present day, the winter egg witnessed Romanov tercentenary celebrations where it symbolized dynastic continuity. It witnessed World War I, which depleted Faberge workshops and redirected precious materials toward military production. In the February Revolution of 1917, provisional government inventory teams tagged it as a state asset number that was later lost. The October Revolution then transferred it from a symbol of devotion to evidence of excess. During the Soviet sales programs in the 1920s and 30s, eggs became foreign currency rather than Easter gifts. Through the Cold War decades, it circulated through Western collectors who valued Russian craftsmanship, while Soviet authorities publicly denied such beauty ever existed. In post-Soviet Russia of the 1990s, the Kremlin borrowed it back for exhibitions exploring reclaimed cultural heritage. In the 21st century global art market, Gulf wealth acquired European artistic legacy. And finally, in the 2025 auction, it sold for £22.9 million to an anonymous buyer after 3 minutes of competitive bidding. Each era reimagined the egg's meaning. To Maria, maternal affection preserved in winter beauty. To the Bolsheviks, decadent indulgence amid popular suffering. To Western collectors, rescued craftsmanship. To Qatari royals, cultural sophistication transcending national origin. To the 2025 buyer, meaning unknown and identity undisclosed. The egg itself changed nothing. Same frost patterns, same diamonds, same anemone basket. But meaning migrated across contexts. An object with no agency becomes total memory, absorbing every interpretation while remaining absolutely silent about which, if any, reflects truth. The contrast between Maria Feodorovna's living grief and the egg's preserved perfection defines its testimony. She died in exile, having lost husband, son, grandchildren, empire, and homeland. The egg remained perfect, crystal unclouded, diamonds secure, mechanism functional. Objects endure what people cannot. Inventory cards across regimes document location but never meaning. The egg testifies by surviving, not by choosing sides. What it witnessed, everything. What it reveals, only beauty, which communicates everything and nothing simultaneously. And in that endurance, it testifies. On December 2nd, 2025, after 3 minutes of competitive bidding at Christie's London, the winter egg found a new custodian for £22,895,000. The buyer's identity remains undisclosed. The sale concluded 23 years of Qatari ownership and returned the egg to auction for the third time, each appearance setting new Faberge records. In 1994, 7.26 million Swiss francs. In 2002, $9.58 million. And in 2025, £22.9 million. The progression reflects not the egg's transformation, but the art market's inflation and the increasing scarcity of imperial eggs in private hands. Final image, museum vault in whichever city now holds it. White gloves, climate control, perfect preservation protocols. Original intent, Easter morning at Anichkov Palace, Maria Feodorovna's hands opening crystal to discover spring flowers. The intimacy of family ritual, Mother and son connected through beauty that said what formal court language could not. Current reality, institutional reverence, investment asset, auction trophy, geopolitical statement, or private treasure, depending on the buyer's undisclosed motivations. No living memory of the egg's creation remains. Alma Peel died in Finland in 1976. The Holmström workshop was demolished. Anichkov Palace became the Young Pioneer Palace under Soviet rule, now a children's cultural center. The Winter Palace houses the Hermitage Museum. Maria Feodorovna's private rooms, where she kept the egg near her window, have been absorbed into institutional space where tourists photograph throne rooms, but cannot trace where a dowager empress kept her most beloved possessions. The egg perfect, the context extinct. Beauty survives, meaning migrates. What endures is not the intention but the object, which testifies to everything that cannot be recovered. A mother's private joy, a son's hope, a dynasty's illusion that spring inevitably follows winter. Somewhere in a vault that never freezes, winter waits, no longer a gift, no longer a promise, only testimony to what was made and what was lost.